The moment I stepped over the threshold of my childhood home, I could feel the weight of years pressing down on my shoulders, the air thick with the stale scent of memories. It had been a long time since I'd faced the scornful gazes of my family, and I could still hear their laughter echoing in my mind, sharp as a blade. They had called me insane, delusional, and worse. Every mocking word had been a nail driven into the coffin of my dignity. I had once been their son, their brother. But after I lost my job in pest control for refusing to gas a house rumored to be cursed, I became nothing more than a pariah. I was no longer the disgrace they had labeled me. I was now a renowned expert in paranormal entomology, a name whispered in both reverence and fear. And yet the knowledge I carried was more than a badge of honor. It was a harbinger of darkness. As I stood in my old living room, the faded wallpaper peeling like the memories I'd rather forget, I felt their eyes on me. My mother's gaze was a mixture of disbelief and regret, while my father's was a cold, hard stare that seemed to strip me bare. My younger sister, once my confidant, now looked at me with a blend of pity and fear. I could sense the tension swirling in the air, thick as fog. They had wanted me to fail, to collapse under the weight of my obsession. And yet here I was, a ghost risen from the ashes of their derision. "Why are you here?" my father finally spat, his voice a low growl. "To gloat?" "No," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my heart. "I'm here to warn you." A dark chuckle escaped my mother's lips. "And what, pray tell, do you think you've uncovered? More fairy tales and nonsense? You've lost your mind, haven't you?" I took a deep breath, the familiar chill of memories flooding back. I could almost taste the bitterness of their scorn, but I had come too far to turn back now. "I've seen things," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. "Things that lurk in the shadows, waiting for the unsuspecting. I've uncovered a sentient rot, a disease that spreads through fear and disbelief." As I spoke, I felt the air grow colder, the shadows in the corners of the room deepening, coiling like serpents. I had learned to recognize the signs, the way the world shifted when the darkness was near. My family, however, remained oblivious, their laughter ringing hollow against the encroaching dread. "Why don't you show them?" a voice murmured in the back of my mind, one I had learned to trust over the years. It was the voice of the infestation, the whispering knowledge I had gained through my harrowing experiences. I reached into my satchel and pulled out a glass jar, its contents writhing in a mass of dark shapes. "You need to see this," I said, the jar trembling in my hands. "You need to understand." My sister gasped, and my father stepped back, his bravado faltering. "What is that?" "A manifestation of the rot I've studied," I said, my heart racing. "It feeds on the fear and disbelief of those who refuse to acknowledge it. It is a collective nightmare, and it's growing." My mother's laughter had faded, replaced by a look of dawning horror. "You're not serious. That's just what?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "Just a figment of my imagination? Just another story to dismiss? You wanted me to fail, to lose my mind, but I've survived what you could never face." As I spoke, the jar began to vibrate, the shapes inside coiling and twisting as if they sensed the fear radiating from my family. I felt the air grow thick with tension, the walls seeming to close in around us. My Fanny's faces drained of color as the darkness seeped into the room, a tangible weight pressing against their chests. "Look," I urged, my voice dropping to a desperate whisper. "Look at what you've mocked. Look at what you've ignored." Suddenly, the jar shattered, the contents spilling forth in a writhing mass of shadow and decay. My family recoiled in terror, their laughter replaced by screams as the darkness surged toward them, tendrils reaching out like fingers grasping for their throats. The room filled with the stench of rot, the air thickening with a palpable dread. In that moment, I felt a mixture of triumph and sorrow. They had dismissed my obsession as madness, but now they stood on the precipice of the horror I had faced alone. Their disbelief had birthed this dark reality, and as they writhed in terror, I felt the weight of their scorn fall away. As the shadows enveloped them, I turned away, leaving them to their fate. I had come home seeking vindication, but what I found was a reminder of the cost of ignorance. I stepped back into the world outside, the chill of the night air washing over me, cleansing me of the burden I had carried for so long. I had survived the darkness, and now I was free. The horror I had uncovered would serve as a warning, a testament to the price of disbelief. My family would never understand, but perhaps in their final moments they would realize what they had lost. As I walked away, a single thought echoed in my mind. Sometimes the greatest horrors are born not from the darkness itself, but from the refusal to acknowledge its existence.